Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Revise, Refocus, Reshape, a candid conversation on collection development. I'm Heather Booth. I'm the audio editor at Booklist, and I had the pleasure of interviewing the librarians you're about to hear from and writing the article in which they're featured. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and a PDF of the article I just mentioned, Revise, Refocus, Reshape, were included in the reminder email that you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. To download these items, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble accessing any of these materials, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any of the questions you might have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, just click the Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our very best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along any other questions to today's panelists during the Q&A portion of this webinar. And if we don't get to them during the webinar itself, we will follow up with you after the webinar. Last but not least, Booklist offers closed captioning on all of our webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar just mentioned. From there, you can select Show or Hide Subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting Subtitle Settings. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Jill Hale, the Collection Development Manager at the Jacksonville Public Library, Monique Franklin, the Adult Collection Development Coordinator at the Fort Bend County Libraries, and Emily Vinci, Fiction Manager at the Schaumburg Township District Library. We'll hear briefly about each panelist's experience with large print, and we'll then move on to the Q&A portion of the webinar. But first, let me kick things off by introducing you all to Thorndike Press's large print collection. We're talking about collection development today, but a common thread here is the large print format. So I want to take a moment and make sure we're all on the same page. Here, you can see how Thorndike's large print books are similar in size to standard print editions. Hardcovers can also lay completely flat on hard surfaces and have a 100% guarantee on binding. Original cover artwork is depicted with this title. Sometimes covers are redesigned and feature different artwork. And I should mention that all Thorndike YA and middle grade titles always have the original artwork, but today we're focusing more broadly on the adult collection development. If you haven't opened a large print book in a while, here's a refresher. Thorndike Press large print books feature a 16-point serif font for optimum letter recognition. There is increased space between the lines, and the high opacity cream-colored paper reduces glare and increases contrast. The combination of a larger font and increased white space on a page helps with letter and word recognition by forcing the eye to move more slowly, and this helps readers avoid skipping or rereading lines. Fewer lines, fewer words per page can also be less daunting, which allows readers to flip through the pages faster. That helps to keep a reader's attention, even if they're someone who normally just can't get into reading. It may help them finish a book for the first time in years because they feel more accomplished. Next slide, please. Something we'll hear our panelists talk a lot about with regard to their large print collection development is diversity. The large print format itself brings diversity to your collection, but even within that section, readers will be seeking increasingly diverse content in terms of genre and representation. These tips here from Tiffany Duck, a librarian and consultant for Thorndike, offer some beginning steps for evaluating your large print collection from a diversity standpoint in order to meet the needs and interests of all of your readers, not just those readers you're familiar with at the desk and those who already know that they can ask for specific titles. Next slide, please. As I was learning from today's presenters, one of the many interesting elements that I found went into the collection management of large print was the concept of floating collections. Whether or not to float a collection is going to be dependent on so many factors in your library, and knowing that there are a number of ways to structure your collection can be useful in conceptualizing a new way of shelving and marketing your large print titles. And that sometimes means a new way of managing the collection It's just what's needed to help these books reach their best and broadest audience. You'll hear more about this from our presenters themselves, but I just want to highlight this as an example of one of the many ways in which a collection plan can be structured to best suit the needs of your community, your readers, and your facilities. And now for some real life examples, I'm going to turn things over to Emily Vinci.
Thank you, Heather. I hope everyone can hear me. I'll turn my video on so you can see me too. So as Heather already introduced me, I am Emily Vinci. I am the fiction manager at the Schaumburg Township District Library in Schaumburg, Illinois. We are a northwest suburb of Chicago, serving a service population of about 140,000. We have one main library and then 2 branch libraries. All of our libraries feature large print collections, large print collections, because a lot of our demographic in our service area is seniors, who are not the only people that read large print, but I think we are still, that's what we think about when we think about large print, but the other presenters will have more to say on that too, in terms of the diversity and readership amongst large type. So this is a picture of our new large type fiction wall, as well as new large type nonfiction. We have 2 nonfiction collections within our fiction department, one of which is nonfiction graphic novels, and the other, which I'll be talking about today, is large type nonfiction. And that's for the sake of ease in terms of accessing it, because as I mentioned, a lot of our patrons are seniors, and so we like to keep all the large print in one place so they can get to all of it easily. So this is one way that we make our large print accessible and forward facing is this big wall we have with all of our new large type titles on it. We also feature large type hot picks, which are our kind of lucky day collection of, you can't place holds. There we go. You can't place holds on them. They're not renewable. It's a 2-week checkout versus a 3-week checkout with our other new titles. And so we started doing that within the past year or so, featuring the new large type hot picks. We didn't used to have one large type hot picks collection, but we do now, and they go like gangbusters. And again, not necessarily just for the folks who like to read large print. It's located right at the front of our department, so it's pretty eye-catching. So if folks can't find things in regular print, but they see it there in hot picks large type, they will sometimes grab it. And we also feature other displays that have our large print kind of front and center, such as the popular titles large type, which is kind of just a mishmash. There's no specific, pull list for that display. A lot of it is stuff that has recently come back to us. And so it's kind of like, if it's frequently checking out, then it must be a popular title. And so we put it there. And it's a good way to highlight also our nonfiction collection in large type, to put it there on our popular titles list. We also have every month we have a featured large print collection that's amongst our other displays throughout the department. We have a pretty big department space-wise, so we have lots of displays. So we always have one display that is dedicated large type. And then beyond that, we take efforts to feature large print in our other kind of nominal displays that we do, monthly displays and things like that. So that's about the gist of the large print collection at Schaumburg.
Awesome, thank you. So we're looking forward to hearing more from you in just a little bit. Next, we're going to hear from Jill at the Jacksonville Public Library.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Hale, and I am the collection library manager at the Jacksonville Public Library in Jacksonville, Florida. And we have large print collections in all of our library locations. My first slide shows a map of the Jacksonville, Duval County area. Our area is, our city is a consolidated city-county government, and we serve residents and employees of Duval County, both within the Jacksonville city limits and the Beaches and Baldwin communities. And large print books are held by all of our libraries. And my next slide talks about some of the best practices that we have regarding large print. So we focus on bestsellers, particularly the simultaneous publications that are available. Our large print readers do like to read items that are in the news on bestseller lists. And be part of book club groups and feel like they are getting to read things in print along with everyone else in our community. We also make sure that we have a diversity of titles in our collections. We do genre collections that we get automatically. So there are mystery books, Christian fiction, African-American titles. We have nonfiction. We have some best picks titles as well. And we also focus on backlist titles. So if we've had something in the past in our collection and for some reason it's not available anymore, we make every effort to fill those titles in for our readers. Also, something we look at for best practices here is the collection analysis. And we use data and look at our users and just, where our trend lines are for large print usage, which is at the bottom of this particular slide. And we'll discuss that, I'm sure, more moving forward. And then my final slide. We do, like Schaumburg, have large print displayed prominently at our library locations. The picture on the left is for a display at a large regional library here in Jacksonville, the Pablo Creek Region Branch, and it is prominently displayed as you walk in. It is right next to the other browsable new publications that might be adult fiction, adult nonfiction, multiple genres. So large print plays an equal role in our locations to those other types of material. And then the display on the right was a program that we had available at our main library a few years ago for AARP 50+. And the titles were kind of purchased and related to some of the themes that some of our older members of the community might be interested in, but they were used thoroughly by everyone in the community. So that's just a little bit about Jacksonville, and we look forward to answering questions as this webinar moves along.
Thank you so much, Jill. Finally, I will turn things over to Monique.
Hello, my name is Monique Franklin. I'm the Adult Collection Development Coordinator for Fort Bend County Libraries in Texas. We are southwest of Houston. We have one main branch and 10 branches with circulating collections and a law library that basically has a reference collection. Next slide, please. We have a population of 850,000. And we are a very diverse county, as you can see from the pie chart. The average age is around 35. 46% of the population has a bachelor's degree, and 73% have white-collar jobs. Next slide, please. So about the collection, basically the large print collection we maintain with a standing order for general, for popular genres and authors, the Westerns and cozies and things like that. So we definitely try to purchase what is popular and add it to the large print collection. If something on the New York Times bestseller list, is found, we look to see if it's available in large print, and then we add it. So the location of our large print collection are put in high traffic areas, usually within line of sight of the circulation desk or the reference desk, or they're near mostly the new book displays, the AV collection, and the whole shelf. In most of our branches, they have 2 stories. The collection is always on the first floor. Next slide, please. One of the things we try to do is make the public know that we do have popular titles in large print. So one of the ideas that we came up is when we have the New York Times bestseller list carousel, we started adding those titles to the carousel. we also had the cataloger edit the images. So as you can see below each title, it tells you whether or not it's a large print. And so that would help the, the patrons know which one is large print so they can place a hold on the correct one in the carousel. Next slide, please. One of our staff members in the technology department came up with an idea of trying to change the wording on filtering searches. And so now when people go to do a search on a particular title, they can limit the search to large print. Next slide, please. And you can see an example, they searched for large print and it came up. Next slide, please. One of the things we did notice about our collection, we floated, but most of our circulation does not come from, placing holds. The circulation comes from people browsing the collection. And that kind of made us nervous when 2020 came along and we were closed for 6 weeks. But, once we opened again, we did curbside service, and you can see that, we did go down in our circulation in 2020, but it did not go down so low as to, make it that nothing was circulating. But 2021 and 2022, as you can see, it started coming back up because now people can come and pick their own books. And if you'd like to know more about Fort Bend County's large print collection, I'll be willing to answer those questions.
Great. Thank you all so very much for all of that great information. The questions have been rolling in. I'm going to start out as everybody comes up on cameras, if you're able to just ask a couple kind of nuts and bolts types of questions. So somebody asked about your spine labels, if your spine labels are also in a larger font for ease of access.
That's actually a very good question, and I will admit I have not encountered this question before. I do not believe they are actually, now that you mention it.
It's a good consideration. It was a great question, one I hadn't considered myself either. So, but I did like hearing Monique talk about how the cataloging was changed so large print is right there in the column number. It's easy to see when you're browsing. So that's like one type of ease of access change that can certainly be made while people are looking for other ease of access items. And then we had another question come in, if there's nothing else on that topic, we had another question come in regarding terminology. So sometimes we hear large print, sometimes we hear large type. Do you have a preference in your library, and is there a rationale behind that? Jill, did you want to start us out with it?
Here in Jacksonville, we've always referred to our collection as large print. It's the term that most of our customers and staff are comfortable and familiar with, so that's just one that we've used.
Great.
We use large type at Schaumburg, and I think, I hate to use this phrase, but that's just the way it's always been done at Schaumburg. We've always just called it large type. So I don't know what the rationale was behind it, honestly.
Yeah, and that's the same for Fort Bend. We've always used large print, and the patrons seem to know exactly what we mean when we say that.
Thank you so much. So we've heard a little bit about your communities, your large print collections. I'm wondering if you can talk, Monique, maybe we can start with you. Do you see your users approaching large print any differently or with a different mentality than they have in years past with changes that have happened in your communities?
Well, yes, because when before we started floating, one of the things we didn't do is we didn't have the titles available until in the catalog for people to see until they were almost ready to be delivered to the branch. So basically it was a surprise, that maybe this new bestseller came out in large print, but no one would know until it showed up at the branch. But after, we started thinking about, well, we could put those titles in the catalog just like we do the standard print ahead of time so people can put holds on it. And so, that was kind of made people a little nervous because they thought people would try to put holds on both of them and, just basically tie up everything. But it turned out, that a lot of people, if they wanted standard print, they put a hold on the standard print. If they wanted large print, they put holds on the large print. And usually we didn't have a duplication of holds.
I can comment on that too, because in Jacksonville, we do have an equal amount of use by browsing, but also by holds. And some of our titles are available in the catalog and holds are placed on them, but we do make sure that when we put those records in that they are easily identifiable, like Monique's library does, to make sure that our customers know that they're large print, and it works very well for our community.
Emily, anything to add on that one?
Honestly, no, nothing to add.
Okay, great. So something that I think a lot of people have thought about, especially with the pandemic and libraries being closed or limited access and people getting pushed onto digital content, wondering what's going to happen after that. And what, we saw some statistics from Monique's library. And so I'm curious how you've all seen users who like these accessibility features of a large print book responding to changes with regards to ebooks, and if you're seeing users getting more engaged with the large print titles now that they're back in the buildings, and how that has worked out for you.
Well,
I can start.
Okay, Emily.
Sorry, I'll be quick. I can say that it was a good bridge to our e-resources, that you have control over the size of the font. For some of our senior patrons who were very reticent and I don't do ebooks, I don't do any of that. Being able to show them how they can, manipulate font size to make it easier to read, has certainly been, even pre-pandemic, not to go back, but that's always been kind of a way that we've been able to get them into learning ebooks. And then obviously when we shut down, unfortunately, folks didn't really have a chance or a choice rather. But now we have, a lot of e-media users that we didn't have before the pandemic, large print kind of notwithstanding. But I would say our large print, and here I am saying large print, I said we call it large type at Schaumburg. I vacillate between the two all the time. But I would say that we have definitely seen an uptick in the popularity of our large type collection, more so than it's ever been before in terms of what's checked out, and having the hot picks, the large type hot picks has certainly been very helpful as well.
I know for us in Jacksonville, in one of my slides, the second slide, which we don't have to put up again, there was definitely like a V. There was definitely a downward trend line. And so what we're doing now is we're kind of on the upward part of that V, and we're trying to get usage back to where it was before we closed. And it has actually bounced back very well. And not all of our customers necessarily wanted to take part in all of the digital content that we had available, or necessarily the audiobook collection. They didn't want to listen to it. They didn't want to see it on a digital platform or tablet. They really did want that experience of the book in hand. And so once our libraries were open and we were doing curbside service, holds, and all of that, and now that our buildings have been open for quite a while now for our full hours, that our usership and readership is coming back, which is very nice to see, because large print does play a very large role in Jacksonville's collection, along with fiction and our genre fiction. large print is among them in its popularity. So,
Well, I would say at Fort Bend, yes, the large print circulation did go up. And during the pandemic, the ebook usage did rise a great deal, and it never really came back down. So one of the reasons I think that's probably why both are being used so much is even during the pandemic, and I know in different locations, there was a lot of building, a lot of people moving around. So we've had, you know, apartment complexes, you can see right behind me, there's one that wasn't in existence a year ago, and now is, you know, being lived in. And, you know, we have subdivisions that are, you know, being built, you know, all around. So it may be that, you know, we got our old users back, but we have some new people too.
When I work at the reference desk, I sub at a library nearby, even in addition to the Booklist work that I do. And several times recently, I've had the experience of somebody finding a book on the shelf in large print when they were looking for standard print. And then there's like a visible look of relief on their face when they open the large print and they're like, oh, and I do think that a lot of that is people who are used to reading on their iPad or something, adjusting the font, wanting a paper book, but wanting the ease of that, that larger font size and the more comfortable reading experience. So that's been nice to see people coming back into the library, getting used to using our hands-on materials, and then finding the large print collection such a comfortable way to engage with print. So let's talk a little bit about the collection development, the collection management specifically that you guys are doing with this collection. I wonder what considerations go into your large print selection. So obviously large print comprises everything from popular fiction to nonfiction to genre fiction. We did have some questions about youth and teen large print titles as well. I think most of you mainly select for adults. So if you wanted to just kind of like give us a rundown of what it is, do you have a collection philosophy behind how you select the large print, how diversity plays into that, and how you balance genres and whatnot? Emily, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So we have three distinct large print fiction collections. We have large print, large type fiction, large type mystery, and large type science fiction fantasy. And the large type science fiction fantasy is the newest kind of the three. It's a few years old now. We just wanted to offer it basically, and because our large type fiction and mystery are so popular, why not offer large print? Because large print or sci-fi fantasy is available in large print, so why not offer it and start offering it to our patrons? And we were pleased to see that patrons liked it and they check it out. In terms of the philosophy for collecting for it, so we have, because our collection in general is so big, we have it broken up amongst selectors in the fiction department. Fiction librarians select for regular type in all of those genres and more. And for a lot of them, we have, you know, kind of our A+ authors. We have like James Patterson, Danielle Steele, the folks that are just high demand across the board, regular print, large type. And so we always are making sure to get, you know, plenty of large type in those with those big name authors. But then beyond that, there is an effort just in general to diversify our collection, again, across the board, you know, regardless of large print, regular print. And there does need to be a little more effort put into finding diverse authors, which I know we will probably continue to talk about, available in large print. Some are not available in large print, you know, right away. Some are available in large print eventually. Some are just period not available in large print. So, and within our fiction collection, there's certainly an effort to make sure that we are not just having those big name authors, Patterson, Steele, Baldacci, all of them, but also including, you know, horror authors, for example, when they're available in large print, making sure that we're diversifying in that way in terms of genre, even though we don't have a specific, you know, horror collection broken out that way within our larger collection, but to make sure that we do have genre variants within fiction. So that's always, you know, at the forefront of everyone's mind.
Jill, can you talk about your collection philosophy for large print?
Yes. So our collection philosophy is to provide the collections for a variety of size locations. So we have our main library, which is a large building that can accommodate a large collection, and our regional libraries are similar. But we also have community branches and neighborhood branches, and those are smaller. So we have a variety of plans that we have for large print, 3 bestseller plans, and then all of our other genre plans and then nonfiction. And what we try to do is we look at what is circulated well at locations, and we kind of divide out our plans so that everyone's getting something different and something unique. Every location is getting a bestseller plan with a variety of titles. Then those items are available if they see them in the catalog and they're not at their location, they can place a hold and have the items sent to them. So that is very popular. We also have the ability for customers to suggest a purchase to us through our website, our library website. And so we will investigate and purchase titles based on that. And I think the one thing that has been most interesting in managing the collection coming back after being closed is that with the slow to return circulation numbers, they're creeping back up. But we have spent most of the time, my selectors and I, managing the movement of our titles. We do have an analytical tools here at Jacksonville Public Library, collection analysis tools, and some things that will do those actions automatically. But with so many locations having the slower turnover of material or less circulation, we've been manually kind of shift our collections around to different branches to kind of make, I guess, older titles seem new at new locations for browsers. So if they've been predominantly browsing, they'll see newer items, and it's been an advantage to them. And so that's kind of been our philosophy, is spreading things out as much as we can, and then actually doing manual management of the collection, because we feel like we can do it better right now with the circulation numbers being lower than an automated system might be able to send it out, because our circulation is still low across the board at some of our branches.
So Jill, what is the system that you use for collection analysis? Someone asked what.
Oh, okay. Well, we are a Cersei Workflows library, so we use their Blue Cloud Analytics, and we also use Collection HQ product.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Monique, lots of questions about floating collections. So how that works for your library and your collection philosophy for large print.
Okay.
Eager to know about that.
Well, the one branch does not float in large print, and that's the main branch. And it always had a large print collection. The other branches, it floats at. So basically, when we get our titles, especially on the standing order, we have a certain group of branches for each genre, and we send those titles to them. If we need more copies, there are more holds, we start buying, additional copies and sending them to those branches that need them. When, there seems to be an imbalance in the amount of books that are on the shelf, that someone says they don't have enough room on the shelf anymore, we monthly have what we call like a shopping cart that we build in our catalog that the staff can see, and they can pick and choose what to bring to their libraries. Some of our branches, the staff know that the patrons don't put as many holds on items, so they will refresh their collection that way. So that's kind of how we balance things out. Like I said, the main branch doesn't circulate, so we try to put as many of the new titles, large print titles, there, so people will have access to them. The other thing we do is we do look for see what is really popular in the standard print. If we notice that there are a lot of holes being driven, we start looking for a large print version. and try to add that to the catalog so people can know that this is also available for them to check out. And it doesn't matter what genre it's in. If it seems like it's attracting attention, that's what we buy. We have been focusing on fiction a lot, but now we have a standing order for nonfiction, and we're starting to try to build that up, because we see there's interest there. We need to get more different types of nonfiction instead of just the popular ones that end up on the New York Times. So that's one of the things we are working on right now.
Do you see what are the nonfiction genres in particular that you're finding there to be interest in, aside from the, like you just said, the New York Times bestseller? Any particular Dewey areas?
The history is a really big one here. I think that's, and health. And history and health are the two biggest ones. We do have some biographies and memoirs, but those aren't as popular as history. History is probably the biggest thing we have.
How about for Jill and Emily? Have you seen specific nonfiction ranges?
For us, surprisingly, biography and memoirs are very popular. So I'm always looking at what's coming in for nonfiction just to get a feel for it. And, just like our regular print readers, like the latest biography or memoir that's coming out, if we can get that in large print and it comes through our plan, or we get a request for it and then make a purchase, it's very popular. So.
Yeah, I would second the biography and memoir. And I should also say that it is a person who works in the reference department who actually selects for our large print nonfiction collection. So we get to see a lot of it, or we get to see all of it because it's in our department, but we don't have any say in kind of what's purchased. So just wanted to be clear about that. But from what I can see, and from what I'm helping people find when they come to the department, it's definitely biography and memoir, as well as health. I would say that too, as well as any of the kind of within the past couple of years, political history sorts of things that we're seeing show up. Those are popular as well.
So in terms of shelving, it seems like all of you have a dedicated large print collection. Has it always been that way in your libraries? Did any of you start out inner filing? Have you considered it inner filing or putting genre stickers indicating large print on the books? If we can go through and just kind of talk about how you came to decide that you wanted large print in its own distinct section, that'd be great. Emily, you want to start us off on this one?
Sure. So I've been at the Schaumburg Township District Library for now about 10 years. So I can say, and I've always worked in the fiction department. So I can say that since I've worked there, there's always been a large print collection. I don't know when it was initially started, but I can say in my time there, it has certainly grown. Its footprint in our department has grown. We've had to get more shelving for it. So I don't know, again, what the thought process was when they initially made it. I don't know what it looked like sort of before I was there. But since I've been there, it always has been there, and it's always been incredibly popular. So.
Jill, sorry, go ahead, Monique.
I would say for us, the main branch always had a large print collection. The other branches at one point, before we started floating, would just pull books and go and have the calendar change the location temporarily. And, they would have a small collection at their branch. But since we went to floating, everyone has, basically expanded their large print shelving section, and the demand has really increased. So now instead of waiting for someone to go and pull some books and update the collection, new books are always sent, or they're placed on hold, and then they refresh the collection that way.
And in our branches, the books have always been in their own part of the library. So they were not interfiled. The only time probably that was the case is for some of our neighborhood libraries they're very small buildings, and have limited shelving space. I know sometimes they've gone back and forth with their fiction collection and are filing some genre and large print within the general fiction collection, but then sometimes they'll pull it out again to highlight it. So that's pretty much how we shelved them here. And I do want to say that in the early 2000s, like between 2001 and 2, we built a new main library and added 5 new branches to our library system. And a big part of those opening day collections were large print books. And we made sure for those spaces and buildings that we were opening, they did have dedicated spaces for large print collections. So it was definitely intentional and something that we've always been committed to in each of the buildings here if space allows for it.
So one more follow-up question for Monique about floating, if that's an automated process or if you're selecting and sending things, if library staff are making that decision.
The floating to a certain
Like when you rebalance a collection, for example.
Oh, no, it's not automated. We do make lists to suggest things that could possibly move, but mostly it's the staff. They're doing the moving and putting things in bins and deciding what goes here and there. But we do have lists that can suggest, where things are popular for them. But it's really the staff that does it.
Thank you. So it seems from all of the nice photos you all shared about your great displays and just the decision to keep your large print together and be able to promote it that way, it just seems like having it front and center or having it so accessible on your catalog is one way to market and promote your collections. I wondered if we could talk a little bit about other things that are happening in your communities or in your libraries that help get the word out about large print. And just extend the readership beyond those folks who are coming in and know that you have a large print collection on the shelf. Jill, could you start with lead us off here?
So we haven't instituted many programs like we had with the AARP program in 2018 prior to being closed. So those are coming back online slowly. But how we market the collection is through our catalog, through displays here at the library. One thing that we encourage our staff to do out in our branches is when they're creating displays, it's interesting and unique to have just an entirely large print display. But what we also like to see is encourage them, to pick a theme or something related around that, and then just really pull from every aspect of the collection, whether it's nonfiction, large print, fiction, media, audio, books on CD, and really kind of pull all of that together to give a real feel for the connectivity of like all of the information we have at the library over all of the platforms and formats that we have available to customers. So I think that has been a popular thing, is including large print in those types of displays.
Monique, how about you guys?
We do, like in catalog, we do the displays of large print, and on our new bookshelves, we make sure they're not separated. They're with the other, standard print books, so people can see them when the new ones come in. But one of the other things we do, the staff that does the book clubs, when they get the bags together and they pull the titles, they will sometimes put large print copies in with the other books. And many of the patrons have appreciated that, being able to have, they never asked for it, but we included some large print titles. So it's kind of something that, for people who didn't ever never thought about choosing large print, they would get that opportunity to read one.
Emily, any ideas there?
Yeah, actually similar to what Monique was just saying. So we have a book club in a bag service at the library where a book club can check out 10 titles 10 copies of a title and get some discussion materials, questions, background info about the author. And for the longest time, those were 10 regular print copies of a title. And we have since kind of evolved to now including maybe like 6 or 7 regular print copies, and then, 3 or 4 large print copies. And part of that is because we were finding that we were being asked so often when people were checking out the kit of 10 regular title or regular print copies, they would say like, oh, do you also have this in large print? Because someone in my group would like a large print copy. So we'd be like, oh, we sure have that for you. We got it for you. And so now when we are just putting those kits together with as we're weeding some and then putting new kits in, we are making strides to put large print copies in those kits with them. And same for our book discussions. We buy a certain number of title or discussion titles for all of our book discussions, and making sure that we have a balance between the regular print that we're offering and an extensive number of large print copies as well, because again, it's in such high demand. But beyond that, I've also found that a way to kind of promote the large print collection, in addition to just including large print titles on displays that don't otherwise maybe have large print, but just have mainly regular print, but kind of sneaking some large print on there, is also at the desk when I'm asked, for a particular title, and I tell people like, no, all of our copies are out, but we do have a large print title if that would interest you. I found that that's a way to, because some people they don't read large print because they don't read large print. They just haven't even tried it, and then you give them a large print and they open it up and they say like, oh no, I can do this. I could read this in large print. And so now I'm seeing more patrons come to the desk and say, do you have this title, regular print, large print? I'll take whatever you got. And so when we ask, like, when they want to place a hold on it, same thing. Do you want to place a hold on the regular print or the large print? And for a good number of them, it's, again, whatever's going to be in soonest, whatever's available. So that's been a way to kind of slowly but surely kind of break down whatever trepidations folks have about, not wanting to read large type.
I'd like to add to that too, because we do have some book club groups here in Jacksonville in some of our branches, and they are specifically, they specifically use the large print books. And I feel really fortunate that our budget allows us to buy the multiple copies that we get to really facilitate. They're not really large reading groups, so there may be 5 to 10 customers who come together to read a title, but we are able to supply those copies all in large print. So if it's a group, that's meeting and they're all reading that same format of book, we can accommodate that. So we've been really pleased that we've been able to continue to do that. So.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds fantastic. I'm seeing lots of folks in the chat saying, oh, we do book club in a bag too. And they're for sure adding large print titles in there as well. So let's talk specifically about diversity and EDI in the large print collection. We've had some questions in the chat about different genres that have been popular. People are asking questions about if you select large print in languages other than English, if you select classics, and then that really useful info from Tiffany Duck that was on one of the earlier slides. It's also in the article. If our viewers want to pull that up after the fact sheet, those are some great tips. But how does large print work in with any EDI strategies that you have in your library and your collection, and working to just make sure that large print collection, which is in itself an accessibility and diverse collection, also reflects the other principles that you're working for in your library. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask. Monique, do you want to lead us off on this one?
As far as, we make an effort to make sure that we have the titles in the catalog. We do go look for the records and make sure that there's something that, that we can put in there and people can put holes on it. So we definitely try to make sure that when we are tracking the titles, we're tracking how many people are placing holes on them, and that affects how many more copies we're going to buy. The other thing, okay, I'm trying to remember your second question.
Just like balancing diversity across the collections, not just with genre, but with representation and things like that, equity issues.
I think we do have standing words like African American or Black voices for Dark Night, but like I said, whatever is popular, we're trying to look for. And because of our diverse, population, a lot of things become popular. Authors that you don't see on a New York Times bestseller list, and we start looking for those in large print. So that's basically how we do it. We go where the interest is.
I agree with Monique. In terms of how we do it, we've found that just publication in general of books and of diverse characters and throughout whether it's on the standing order plans available to us that are specific to perhaps like a DEI type title, that they're available, but there's just the publication of items in large print has just expanded, I think, within my time being a collection development librarian exponentially from when I started. So you see a lot more, like Monique said, you see a lot more titles outside of that bestseller track getting printed in large print and getting into the hands of readers. And so I think that in and of itself, with the DEI aspect of perhaps the character or the story itself, but also within just expanding the quality of titles that customers have access to who need it in large print type.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. I would say ditto to what they've both said, but I would say it's our holds list for sure that kind of help drive our decision making, and at least initially in terms of, and that's holds list on the regular print as well as the large type, then to see what's really popular just kind of across the board. And sometimes there are surprises there that you wouldn't expect. It's not New York Times bestseller sort of stuff, but for whatever reason, it's popular amongst our patrons. So then the next question is, well, do we have it in large type? And if not, is it available in large type? And on and on and on. So that's certainly an effort. And again, as I had mentioned before, we're making, more efforts to diversify our collection across the board in general to make sure that we're employing those, these EDI principles. And that definitely includes large type. It's just a little bit tougher in large type sometimes in terms of what's available.
A couple specific genre types of questions. Does anyone select or have a call for classics in large print?
I cannot say that is the top area for our requests. If we come across it, we definitely will include it for any reader, whether whatever age may be interested in it. So.
And then do any of you have books in Spanish or other non-English languages in large print?
I can't say that we have at this time. I think, if it's not because we don't want them, I think right now we are really struggling trying to keep up with our world language collections, and also having people, who are able to help us select those titles. So, when we're able to get people on staff that can help us select, and we can probably look for those types of books in large print.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then Emily, there was a question for you about your Hot Picks collection, and how many titles do you tend to have in large print on that display at any given time?
So we, excuse me, we do a leasing program with Baker and Taylor. So we lease our large print Hot Picks. So that gave us kind of a place to start because our quota for our leasing is 20 a month. So we kind of started there. And now it has since grown because the thing about the quota is it rolls over. So if you don't use it all 1 month, then you have a little bit more the next month. So it gives me a little more freedom to kind of play with how many, and it's also an opportunity since they're leased and we have that quota to take some chances on what we're calling a hot pick and what we're putting out there, which again is a way to push the diversity and push different types of books in large print, making sure that our patrons know that we have them because they're there on the hot pick shelf. So right now, I would say we have anywhere between 20 to 25 there, maybe at the start of a day. Hopefully by the end of the day, they're not all there because they're checked out. But that's generally, I would say, ballpark what fits on those large print hot pick shelves.
Great. So I just want to mention that a number of people have asked about youth large print collections or teen large print collections. Thorndike has done some remarkable work doing the research into the usefulness of large print for teens, for striving readers and things like that. And we actually did a webinar with them on that topic a while back, a couple of years ago, I guess it was now. And so we can send a link out there. Do any of you have a youth large print collection in your libraries? I know the three of you work mostly with adult titles, but is this something that your libraries have?
We do not have teen large print currently in our collections.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Emily, go ahead.
I was going to say we do. We do have youth large print. That's new, I think, within the past few years that they have their own large print collection. I will say, though, that because we do have such an extensive fiction large print collection, we do see a lot of teens, a fair amount of teens, I should say, come down and check out our large print books as well.
We don't have a young adult large print collection at this time. Our collection for young adults is pretty tight, so we would have to make a decision on how to get one or include one. As far as under, for youth or for children, there is a large print collection that's interfiled with the regular collection.
That's great. Yeah. So for those of you that are more interested in the youth large print titles, we can certainly follow up with you after the program and share some more information. I found it to be incredibly useful, just knowing how the how different libraries are using large print for teens, and the research behind that. So I'm just scanning through to see if there are any other questions. We're nearing the end of our time here. Oh, do any of you sticker your large print for genre, such as mysteries or romance?
No, we do not.
No.
We don't sticker because we have them. We don't have a romance collection in large print, but we do have a mystery and a sci-fi fantasy. So they already have kind of their own space in the large print collection.
Okay, that's really useful. Thank you.
Just basic genres, mystery, sci-fi, yeah, if we have it, but not a lot. Basically, if it says whatever it's on the call number says, that's basically what we want to use.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, the questions are still rolling in, but we are running out of time. So any questions that we were not able to answer in the presentation here, we'll definitely try to follow up with you after the fact. Grace, if we can move on here. I am so afraid this is all the time we have today, but as a reminder, we will pass along any of the unanswered questions to today's panelists. Thank you so very much, Emily, Jill, and Monique. This was all so insightful, so useful. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, a link to the Revise, Refocus, Reshape article, a certificate of completion, and a video recording of today's webinar. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars, like the one about youth large print that I mentioned, and register for upcoming ones like those that you see here. Thank you all so much for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our librarian panelists and to our sponsor, Thorndike Press. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.